and welcome to this edition of Market Watch, brought to you by EnergyBin, the B2B solar community for PV repair, resale, and recycling. I'm Melissa Schmid, the marketing manager here at EnergyBin, and I'm joined today by Thomas Hennessy, my colleague. Welcome, Thomas.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Today, we are here to discuss the solar supply chain and the secondary market. But before we get into our topic, Thomas, why don't you share a little bit about your role and what you like most about working in the solar industry?
Yeah, so I'm the business development manager here at EnergyBin, and I love my job. I'm essentially a matchmaker, and we are connecting solar companies all around the country and all around the world, buyers and sellers alike. So my favorite part about working in the solar industry has been solving companies' problems. I know you hear success stories. I hear success stories just about every day, Melissa. And, it really feels good to be a part of this, and it feels good to be a part of this push towards renewable energy.
That's great, Thomas. And I really hope you share some of those success stories with us in this interview today.
Absolutely.
But before, let's jump into our topic and talk about supply chain constraints. Across the industry news, I'm reading about rising PV prices, both in the US and in Europe. In fact, in the US, a module has risen to 6 to 8 cents per watt on average. And analysts are not expecting those prices to go down anytime soon. In addition to rising PV prices, we're seeing skyrocketing freight costs. In fact, Rystad Energy has predicted that an estimated 56% of the world's utility scale developments planned for 2022 may be delayed or even canceled due to these freight costs. I'm also reading about supply shortages, and this is across many brands and product lines. I think this is partly due to the global chip or semiconductor shortage, as well as different political economic issues, like the withhold release order passed in the United States, which is detaining any solar containers at the ports that may contain material that has components that come from that Xinjiang province in China. Thomas, what are you hearing in the field from solar companies about supply chain issues?
Yeah, so I think you nailed it on the head, Melissa. The supply problems seem to be intensifying all over the country and all over the world. It seems like nearly every company I talk to is dealing with a supply issue in some way, shape, or form. And we're starting to hear more about delays and cancellations because companies can't find equipment that they need on time. So lead times are stretching further and further out. I think it's important for companies to plan for that and take advantage of alternative options like EnergyBin in the meantime.
And really, do you mind elaborating on what those alternative options are for solar companies to buy and sell equipment in the secondary market?
Absolutely. So, when vendors don't have what buyers need, or buyers aren't purchasing what vendors have, what you have as a vendor, I would encourage both parties to consider the secondary market, because it opens up a lot of doors for solar companies that aren't finding what they need through their primary vendors. Chances are one of our members has that module or inverter that you've been looking for. And then on the flip side, for vendors, if buyers aren't purchasing certain types of equipment that you have, consider listing your product on the secondary market. I think EnergyBin helps expand your reach as a seller, so buyers in other areas have access to your product as well.
And Thomas, for our viewers, I think it might be important to just clarify what the secondary market is. In a nutshell, it's a market where PV material can be resold that has fallen out of that traditional distribution channel. For example, it could be a material resulting from a delayed project or a project that was canceled altogether. We also see much surplus excess material from bulk purchases. We see clearance items. And I think we also see quite a bit of bankruptcies from where product is being liquidated due to companies going out of business. Correct, Thomas?
Absolutely. We see a lot of equipment like that.
Yeah. So, Thomas, what hesitancies do solar companies have when it comes to getting involved in PV resale?
Yeah, so I think there's a number of hesitancies that companies have before diving in. Solar companies can be hesitant to list product or even buy on the secondary market. And I feel like there's a negative connotation associated with the secondary market. There's a shared sentiment that all equipment on the secondary market is used or imperfect or obsolete in some way. And more times than not, this isn't true. Equipment can end up in the secondary market for a variety of reasons, as you said, Melissa. And the majority of the equipment that we see is brand new. A lot of resellers aren't confident that there is a secondary market, or they're hesitant to dive into it. And I talk to a lot of installers who think they're too small to reap the benefits of the secondary market. So these are all fallacies. I don't know where they come from, but I think any company can stand to gain from the secondary market so long as they're committed to it.
Yeah, and really from our position in the industry, there absolutely is a secondary market. A robust and sustainable secondary market is a critical element to ensuring we achieve a circular economy in the solar industry. So, Thomas, how can solar companies ensure they experience success in buying and selling equipment in the secondary market?
Yeah, so I would say the most important thing in my eyes is commitment. Whether you're a small installer or you're a large international manufacturer, I think you will experience success in the secondary market if you have commitment. For buyers and sellers alike, companies that are proactive about sending their want to buy and want to sell broadcasts within EnergyBin, these are the mass emails when you have needs to buy or sell. Those are the companies that are experiencing success and more success. And for manufacturers, distributors, resellers, you have to treat EnergyBin as you would your internal CRM system. EnergyBin gives you access to hundreds of new buyers, and you can post your inventory, you can send these mass emails, these broadcast messages that I mentioned, and you have to do your best to make new connections and expand your network. And I think EnergyBin all plays a part of that.
Yeah, and I really like that word, commitment. It makes a lot of sense to me. You would have to treat it like any part of your daily operations in order to see the results that you're looking for. So thanks for that word.
Yeah.
And I also feel like one of the hesitancies I hear in my industry conversations is I'm hesitant to get into the solar secondary market because I don't really know what my excess material is worth. And for those of you who may have excess supply right in your back rooms or warehouses, I would say 2 tips of advice. One is to work with an appraiser to help find what that resale value may be, especially if it's used. An appraiser can test it for functionality, safety, performance, and tell you if it even has resale value to begin with, or if it should rather be disposed of appropriately. And then for that new equipment, the other tip of advice is do your research. EnergyBin and other platforms make it really easy to pop in the part number into the search and see what other suppliers who have that same part number are listing for as a price, which I think is really important to give people a competitive price. Those who accurately price their material are seeing the best results in the secondary market. What do you think, Thomas, that solar companies can do to ensure they are working with qualified buyers and sellers online?
Yeah, so I think it's always important to know who you're doing business with. And fortunately, we take care of a lot of the legwork here at EnergyBin. So all members are vetted on the front end. And we always ask for, we look for a functional website. We look for tax numbers. We look for business references before allowing companies onto our site. So EnergyBin's a safe business environment. for buyers and sellers alike. And I encourage companies to contact us when they have questions about new members they're working with, companies they haven't interacted with before. That's why I'm here. That's why Rob's here. That's why Melissa's here. We're here to help in those types of situations. And we want to maintain that safe business environment.
Yeah, and I would also note that many of our members, because we are a wholesale exchange, are also doing business on other marketplaces, other platforms, and also operate their own e-commerce sites as well. What are some factors that solar companies should consider when they're selecting different sites to do business on in this online environment?
Yeah, good question. So you have to consider your target market, and you also have to consider your transactional fees. There are other platforms with solar equipment listed for sale, but there's very few that are dedicated exclusively to solar. EnergyBin's great for sellers because we have a large group of solar companies actively looking to buy equipment. And every time that you send out a broadcast email on our platform, your message is getting viewed by hundreds of companies. And with transactional fees, you have to keep those in mind as well. Most platforms are charging 15% plus per transaction, whereas here at EnergyBin, we only charge for the yearly membership. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, most companies are much better off selling and buying on EnergyBin versus our competition. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, I don't really look at it as cost per se, as an investment. And it's really the value that you see with the membership, like you would joining an association or a chamber of commerce. It's part of the value of doing business and connecting with your industry peers on the online community. And speaking of that, Thomas, do you have a story of success to share with us about a company who has done business in the secondary market?
I do. So one of my clients comes to mind. His name is John from Second Life Batteries. And he's a newer member. I know he's successfully sold several inverters to Minnesota Solar Supply. This was all within his first month of membership. And his comment to me was one of satisfaction with respect to the dollar investment that he made through EnergyBin. I think the sale came out to be more than 26 times his return on investment. So wow. That's one success story among many. This was a recent one, but I wanted to share that with everyone.
Yeah, that's an amazing story that really justifies the importance of the secondary market within the solar industry. So thanks
Absolutely.
For that. And before we wrap up this interview, let's look to the future. Put on your future goggles. We're going into the future. And, these supply chain issues we've been discussing, they're not going away anytime soon. Rising prices, freight costs, shortages, but we're offering an alternative solution here. And really, demand keeps climbing. The International Energy Agency has forecasted a total of 280 gigawatts of new solar capacity next year. In the United States alone, Wood Mackenzie has forecasted an additional 29 gigawatts of new solar capacity each year through 2026. What are your predictions for the secondary market in 2022?
Those are some big numbers, Melissa. I think that the secondary market is going to continue to grow in the coming years, and I think 2022 is going to be a big year in particular. We all know inflation's rising, supply chain issues seem to be getting worse. There's a labor shortage right now, and I think that companies will have no choice but to entertain the secondary market. And I think realistically, these supply issues, they're going to persist through 2022. And right now, I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. So, my advice to companies would be, don't put all of your eggs into one basket. Now is the time to diversify your business and look into sourcing and selling in the secondary market.
Thank you, Thomas, for your insights today. It's been a wonderful interview. I'm sure you'll be happy to connect with any solar company who wants to explore EnergyBin as an alternative solution for buying and selling solar equipment.
Absolutely.
For
Please
our
call me.
viewers, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out EnergyBin.com for more resources for buying and selling solar equipment in the secondary market. From all of us here on the EnergyBin team, we wish you a very prosperous and fulfilling 2022.